Okay, so we can figure it out. Just give us a minute. But meanwhile, I think we are good to go. Umesh sir, shuru karte hain.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay, so everyone, welcome to this debate that is being conducted by the Indian Psychiatric Society and under the Rural Psychological Health Subcommittee. Uh, at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Umesh Nagapurkar sir, Dr. Dhananjay Ashturkar, Dr. Bhushan Shukla, and the panelists here to agree to this topic, which, believe me, a month back, in fact, me and Umesh sir have been talking about this for 6 months. And we only finalized about it a month back. And जैसे ही हमने speakers से बात किया, NMC guidelines आ गए. And all of a sudden, this topic that seemed like a very, very neutral topic became highly controversial. So kudos to all the three panelists to agree to speak on this. And I would really like to just tell a short story of why this topic even felt important. So I used to write for a certain company, and that company left India, and the molecule was phenomenal. A lot of other companies came in, but they could not match the quality. And it got me thinking, कि, why क्यों नहीं टिक रही अच्छी companies India में? There may be various reasons, but one of the reasons that I felt was there are other ways in which prescriptions are written. It's not just the molecule, or it's not just the brand. There are so many other things that can influence our prescription, and the awareness was very important. But I could be wrong, and it's possible that no, those are not the factors that influence, and it could be a bias. But it's worth a thought that we should all be giving it a thought at least. कि हम जो लिख रहे हैं, हम जो prescription लिखते हैं, what are the factors that affect that prescription, and uh, what are we actually supposed to think of when we are writing a prescription? What are the factors that we should be considering? And based on that, last 6 months we have been talking, and finally we are here. And I think it's a good time to have this conversation. I see all the groups just booming with conversations on this, of how the pharmaceutical industry and the NMC guidelines and all of that. So with no more time wasted, let us start with our debate. I will quickly just introduce the speakers, and I will also tell the floor. So 10 minutes, the team that is for the motion. So we know the motion is pharma influences our prescribing patterns. So there are two panelists who are going to be for the motion, Dr. Pallavi Dhakne and Dr. Suyog Jaiswal. And there's one panelist who's against the motion, that is Dr. Sagar Karia. Each panelist, the team for, gets 10 minutes to speak whatever points they have for it, and team against gets 10 minutes. And then we'll have a rebuttal for 5 minutes each. Before I introduce the speakers, I would want Dr. Umesh Nagapurkar sir to say a few words to us.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mansi. I welcome you all. First of all, Shikshak Dinacha Shubhecha. I wish to pay my respect to all seniors who have taught me, not only age-wise, but also experience-wise. After, as you said rightly, we have been, medical fraternity has been facing a lot of issues after MHCA, which is still yet to be settled. Now this new NMC guidelines have come up. Now they have temporarily cleared those guidelines, but still we are in a fix because we had our Srinagar conference cancelled because of this issue. I'm sure IPS West Zone has come up with this very innovative program topic, and I'm really proud of my all colleagues who are thinking out of the box. We not only think about ourselves, but we think about our patients' welfare too. So that is another important issue that we should address now. Even though it is a bit controversial, but someone has to start the brainstorming so that we all are benefited, especially our patient population. And lastly, I think this is going to be a very interesting discussion. All three panelists are very good orators, speakers, and I would like to thank Dr. Manasi, Dr. Bhushan, Shailesh, and Rural Psychological Health Subcommittee of IPS West Zone. I wish all the best, and I hope that we again come up with some novel ideas like this. Thank you, Manasi. Over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind words, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Manasi, can I say a few words here?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Sure. Yeah. So number one is taking it from the perspective of the pharma also, because I think that perspective is important. What is happening is, from the time I started in 1974, there were just escazan, pacetil, largactil, syringes, and tofranil. Believe it or not, just 5. From 5, now we have reached 500 maybe, or at least, and each molecule has several brand names. So obviously there is a tremendous amount of clutter. Not only we have several molecules for each disorder to treat, amongst each molecules we have several brands. So obviously the pharma people are trying to make themselves more relevant. So the whole idea in their mind is, how will I get this particular person to remember my brand name? It begins there. Because basically, when all the brands have, let's say, equal efficacy, they're equally efficacious, then the fight is about brand recall. And when there is a fight about brand recall, it is done two ways. Either it will be done purely through the brand name, or it is done even more intimately as developing a human relationship. So I write a particular brand, not only for the brand, I also write it for the person who is coming to see me and who is persuading me. So from brand writing, then it goes to development of relationship. And many ways of developing a relationship. One relationship nowadays, which is accepted in life everywhere, is a transactional relationship, in the sense that there is a kind of a transaction between two parties. So the genesis partly of this relationship is jostling in the marketplace to be seen, to be heard, to be remembered. And as they say, कि आपके पेन में आना चाहिए. So I think it starts there, and then each one of us, particularly this is a little different for psychiatry, because psychiatry is about relationships and how we build relationship, and how the pharma people build relationship with us, whether it's a relationship of trust, of friendship. There is bound to be a little give and take, but again there are limits and boundaries to the relationship, and the problem starts is the relationships from being human, by being friendly, by being exchange of knowledge, understanding. They almost become transactional, demanding, I do this for you, you do this for me. And I think what is gradually happening over a period is this. This is the background.
Shrikant sir, yes. I think your thoughts are extremely valuable, and I would urge you to wait till the end of the debate so that you can share the closing comments. I'm a bit afraid your thoughts may influence the poll right now, so I do not want that to happen. So I would urge you to wait till the closing comments, and we can definitely have, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts. So with that, I would first like to just quickly take a poll. How many people are for the motion and how many people are against the motion?
एक ही पूछना है कि हम लोग yes no कैसे लिखें?
Yeah, I mean, yes or no. So, you know the motion. Pharma influences the prescribing patterns. How many people for yes? Please type yes or raise your hand. So, all the people with yes, raise your hand or just type a yes. Yogendra, I'm relying on you to take a picture of this. Yogendra, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So we have 38 participants right now, and we're going to keep a count of how many have said yes. And anyone who's a no, just type no in the chat.
Raising hand is also working, madam. Four people
Sorry?
raise hand. Raising hand is also working now, I think. 4 people raise the
Okay.
hand.
Has everyone replied? I think we'll wait for another
Yes,
10 seconds
no
for
is
people to
one
reply.
people. Shivraman Krishnan is saying no. Others 5 person raising hand. Yes.
Just take a screenshot.
Yes.
Okay, okay, I think it's
Manasi,
about time. Yes, sir.
yeah, repeat question once again so that those who have joined,
Okay,
and then after 10-15 seconds you can stop the poll.
sure, sure. Okay, so the poll or the question that we have here is, the motion is, does pharma influences our prescribing patterns? That's the motion. Anyone who agrees to this, says yes to this, please raise your hand or say or type yes in the chat. And anyone who believes it's not true, just say no.
Nancy, madam, I have sent the screenshot on your WhatsApp.
Yeah, yeah.
Sending another one.
Yeah, I could see a few replies. I'm not sure if most of the other people have replied. But whoever has now not replied, is it safe to presume that you are undecided about the motion yet? I think it's safe. Okay, so with that, we'll begin. Yogendra, don't worry about the slides. I'll just introduce the speakers from here. So, Pallavi, you're going to be the first speaker, right, Dr. Pallavi?
Madam, I can share. Yes. No issue.
No, Yogendra, let it be. I think it'll take a while to do all of that. So,
Okay.
Dr. Pallavi Dhakne is going to be our first speaker. She's speaking for the motion. So, a quick introduction about Dr. Pallavi. She's currently practicing at Redkar Hospital, Galaxy Hospital at Goa. She's done her MBBS, DPM. She's a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, a life fellow of BPS, IPS, IPP, and various other organizations. I have met her in a couple of conferences. She's a dynamic speaker, and I'm sure we'll definitely be in for a treat hearing her talk. Over to you, Dr. Pallavi.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fine. So I would just request our coordinator to mute all other all other mics so that it doesn't interrupt this discussion. Is that all right? Okay. So I start now, and I take this opportunity to thank everyone, IPS West Zone, of course, our president, Dr. Nagaputkar, and our moderators, Dr. Bhushan Shukla and Dr. Mansi, for starting a good practice of debate. So, firstly, let me declare that this is not an anti-pharma company debate. This is just a debate. Debate is a Tarka Shastra where we use logic, analysis, and arguments, just like Aristotle did, Socrates did, Plato did, Gautam Buddha did. And we just use art of discussion and science as well as proof, evidence, and we do not rely on assumptions to reach correct inference. So we do say in favor that pharma does influence our prescribing habits and it does affect our judgment. Firstly, let me tell you that sometimes it is positive transference. This transaction can be definitely positive. How? We will get good quality medicines. When pharma is going to invest in a qualitative research, we will get newer molecules. Patients will benefit with these studies. And then there is public-private partnership, which will help us in community outreach. We are far too short in the number, hardly 10,000 psychiatrists in whole of India. How are we to reach all our patients? We, of course, need support. We, of course, need help, and we need funding, which comes for our CME events, our associations, and, of course, Dr. Sagar would be adding more to the list in coming next part. So what happens when we start our private practice? When you are in institute, you have a support, you have a system in place, you have pharmacy in place, you know what to do, you know where to look. But in private practice, what do you do? How do you start prescribing? A, you use feedback from patient and your past experience. B, you try to use lowest cost brand so that it's cost effective. C is where we come, that influence of pharma rep. And none of this is rational or scientific way, but we end up using. Allegedly, drug regulators are supposed to use scientific data of all currently marketed medicines at regular interval to help doctor make a decision that A brand's antidepressant is better than B brand antidepressant. Okay? But unfortunately, we are not in this utopian universe. And in our multiverse, there is very little data in form of post-marketing surveillance. And as per the norms, pharma companies are required to submit post-marketing surveillance data on every drug to the regulator for minimum 4 years. And pharma reps must share studies conducted on this drug safety profile. Of course, all the RCTs are looking at a very safe profile, but what happens when the patients are falling out of that profile, age group, comorbidities, so on and so forth. As Dr. Joshi rightly highlighted, what is happening? How is this transaction happening? And then that is where we come in the reality. We wake up to the reality where we are at the end of very long OPD of waiting or rushing, trying to rush to other hospitals, trying to get your daily work done. And there is a horde of pharma reps vying for your attention, waiting with their colorful pamphlets and talk of, in very hush-hush voice, target. Adam, this molecule is moving very slowly. I'm very sure many of us have heard this statement. Now, in a haste, are we going to completely ban pharma companies and pharma reps from coming to us and then, advertising or even promoting their drugs? Unfortunately, I don't think so. If we are promoting rural psychiatry and we are talking of rural psychiatry in remote places, how are patients to get all the necessary medicines with help of pharma companies and reps? Because in remote locations, they are the only one who will help with the stock availability. We very well know during COVID times, no patient was left without medicine because uninterrupted supply was provided by pharma company. So what evidence we are going to put forward saying that pharma influences us? There is a 2013 study which was conducted in India as well as in Australia, and they had enlisted equal number of participants of doctors as well as pharma reps, where they highlighted that gifts, however small, they do influence our prescribing habit. A physician, whenever he listens to the pharma, that human interaction, and accepts a gift, obligation to prescribe automatically rises. As we say, familiarity bias or subliminal advertising, that happens. And there is a very, very interesting publication from 2003, which is like 20-year-old, but still very, very relevant. Dr. Richard Smith and Dr. Kamran Abbasi in British Medical Journal, they highlight how pharma companies influence us. They had listed 16 ways where they highlight free pen and pizza, hospitality, access to paid journal, ghostwriter for publication, unaffordable holidays, and there are many more updated versions and newer tricks. I think in last 20 years added to this muster, maybe 16 is not 16 anymore, maybe it is 60, but it does hamper medical information and patient care. It distorts our view, even if we don't acknowledge it. Because all said and done, pharma company are commercial entities. They have learned and they have by-hearted, and I would say they have studied marketing psychology or maybe invented new terms in marketing psychology very sincerely, thoroughly, practiced 200%, and effective marketing is almost like inception. They implant idea, they implant molecule in your brain only to make us believe that no, we are not affected by them. It is our own idea. It is my own thought. So our prescription is what they want. They need it. We also need to prescribe their molecules. Otherwise, how will patient get better? So our prescription becomes an asset. And what would they do for that asset? They will track prescription. They will see to it. They will do everything in their control to get what they want. So what they say in a very popular stand-up comedy, सख्त से सख्त आदमी पिघल जाए ऐसे सारे नुस्खे हैं उनके पास, आपके पास है क्या? Probably not with all of us. So amongst the last few years, there have been a lot of studies, data collected by a lot of forums. Amongst the last 10 largest pharma firms, they have spent only 6% of the total sales on research. Whereas how much they have spent on marketing? 290%. 290% amount of money from the sales has been spent on marketing. In last 8 years, 7 Indian major pharma companies have spent 34,186.95 crore rupees in marketing. I don't know how many hundreds and how many rupees and how many zeros go in that. My maths is not that great. In 2010, US pharma industry surpassed defense industry, the US defense industry, in fraudulent ways of getting business. So that's how they incurred more civil and criminal penalties also. Maybe they felt penals to, just suppress this information. In our very own India, in 2019, an RTR placed in Department of Pharmaceuticals, there were serious allegations against 20 companies and complaints of bribing doctors. Now, why would they do that? Why are they doing this? What do we have to offer them? One company had a very interesting way of filing for tax refunds. And that too, 14 years ago. They filed for tax refund of 4.72 crore rupees for freebies of LCD TV, fridges, laptops, gold coins. Now, I wonder which doctors need all these things for a successful practice. But maybe it was pushed their way. Subliminal message. We don't know how it happened, but it happened. Now, for pharma company, what is government doing for them? They have a voluntary code, Uniform Code of Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices, which is operational since 2015. It bans them from giving any freebies to doctors or their companies. But what if doctor violates this rule? His license can be suspended. What happens to pharma company? Absolutely nothing. Not accountable, no rules, no regulation, no punishment. So in this scenario, there are associations of doctors for ethical healthcare, as well as there is All India Drug Action Network, which is a patient right group. They observe that when physicians are not accepting freebies, probably the trust and credibility they feel is better. Because what they perceive is that patient is likely to suffer greater financial exploitation when incentives are added to this hidden cost. And this has also been researched a lot. My colleague Dr. Suyog would be highlighting it in later part. Now there is a dark side which all of us sometime end up overlooking. But there are a lot of interesting prescription where a tedious dose of a same molecule is written for 3 different brands. Brand A, morning. Brand B, afternoon. Brand C, in the evening. 3 different companies are happy. And there are some obscure brand names for a common medicine. And then these prescriptions look like a code. Kulja Sim. Okay, only that pharmacy, only that pharma company, and only that doctor knows what is being done there. Big conflict of interest. And why is this happening? Probably rise of privatization of medical education. There is a lot of peer pressure. There is a lot of rat race and cutthroat competition in all the specialists and super specialists in urban area. Probably they have backdrop of loan. Probably there is sliding income. And probably it is pushing them towards this unethical prescribing habits. We don't know what's the real cause, but we can never discount good old greed, human nature and vices. We are not immune to them. We are all human. We come from the same demographic. Yes, please.
Dr. Pallavi, you have a minute left.
Yes, please. So what happens when this nexus is growing? Many of us feel like Rahul Dravid that we are being good one, nice one, not the jazzy one. And many of us are envious of Hardik Pandya's amongst us who are very well sought after, become brand, and everyone wants them. So what I would like to highlight is self-regulation is failing, is not actually failing, and it's not there. There is no self-regulation and there is no policing of nefarious gain amongst our peers. And all of us are missing, or maybe many of us are missing self-reflection. So I would say that our association like IPS has an important role here, and we should not be ambiguous about malpractices and we should curtail them. We should differentiate between beneficial and harmful activities. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, for that fantastic talk, which you did without the aid of a presentation. So you were so thorough, and I believe you were so feeling so strongly about the topic. So now moving on to the speaker who's against the motion, that is Dr. Sagar Karia. Just a quick introduction of Dr. Sagar Karia. Just give me a moment.
मैंने शेयर किया, आपको शेयर करना है क्या? मैंने स्क्रीन शेयर कर दिया है।
नहीं शेयर नहीं, शेयर नहीं करना है, मैं सिर्फ रीड कर रही हूँ. So Dr. Sagar Karia, he is a consultant he's the assistant professor at the Department of Psychiatry at Sion Hospital. He was the secretary of DPS from year 2017 to 19. He's the executive committee member at IPS West Zone of IPS Thane branch. More than 150 publications. He's the assistant editor of Annals of Psychiatry, Annals of Indian Psychiatry, and Indian Journal of Mental Health. And he's been the quiz master for the past so many years since 2014. So, Dr. Sagar Karia, we're happy to have you here, and over to you.
Yeah, my screen is visible, I suppose.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. The topic is pharma influences our prescription habits, and I am going to speak against the motion. Now, the thing is, my dear friend had already explained how this pharma influences our prescription. Like they are our wives and they are only just ruling our lives, I think. But I will put forth some points which will explain that how the doctor, a medical doctor who has toiled hard for about 5 years in the MBBS days and then for 3 years in the post-graduation days, and then he decides what medicine or what molecule has to be prescribed. I think they have misunderstood the topic by talking about only the pharmaceutical name or the brand name. We are the ones who decide the molecule. So there is a difference. Let me tell the audience also. The topic is whether it influences our prescription. They have never asked that whether it influences our writing of any particular brand or anything. See, we are the ones who are going to decide what molecule a patient is going to need. So the decision is made basically on the three main factors, that is our clinical experience, the need of the patient, and the guidelines or the evidence which is available in the literature. So these are the three main factors which makes a doctor write a particular molecule to the patient. Because if a patient of depression comes, I am bound to write antidepressants. See, who can deny that I will write antipsychotic? Means I am going to write antipsychotic to a patient of depression? No, we are not that fools. We have been taught in our medical colleges for 3 years what to prescribe and when to prescribe. You can see on the screen a molecule haloperidol. Now, I particularly don't remember this person ever coming to my OPD since last 10 years. I think recently only he had come. But in last 10 years, this pharma company has never visited me. But you ask any person who has joined psychiatry or who is practicing in psychiatric branch since so many years, any patient of schizophrenia, we usually write Serenase and Finargan. Injection also, we write injection Serenase and injection Finargan. So where this pharma company has influenced our prescription. For haloperidol, we are known to write Serenase and it is in our pens. But the molecule we write is haloperidol. For depression also, from out of 33 participants, almost 90% will agree that our choice of molecule will be escitalopram, because clinically it is very much known to us that it is the most effective medicine, and our teachers have also used, our colleagues are using, and we are also using this molecule. So yes, we decide about our clinical judgment, which is helpful to the patient. Coming to some molecules, if only pharma were supposed to influence, then we would have not got the failure of such couple of molecules. When this was launched, there were 20-30 companies who has launched this agomelatin. But you can see the condition of agomelatin today. It is nowhere seen. Hardly one brand is still available in the market, but see, no one is much interested in writing. So if only pharma were to influence our prescription, this molecule have done wonders in the clinical practice. But no one writes. Iloperidone is lost in some books. We never teach our PG students also there is something called as iloperidone. So yes, it is our clinical judgment. We know it is not that efficacious, not helpful for the patient, and we are not prescribing. There is some confusion about newer molecules like vortioxetine, lurasidone. Not many of are comfortable like escitalopram and haloperidol to say surely yes, this molecule works. But again, going by my colleague's opponent, if pharma is to influence, there are 25 new companies with vortioxetine and it would have done good business in the market. But that is not true. They all come every day and say, sir, ye molecule chali nahi raha hai, ye chali nahi raha hai, but still it is not working because we know the efficacy We have Sachin Tendulkar with us, that is escitalopram, and we are more comfortable using Sachin Tendulkar rather than Hardik Pandya. So yes, this is one of the factor, that is the clinical evidence and clinical experience which influences our prescription. If that is not so, then the medical colleges would have been shut down and we would have been studying in the pharmaceutical companies what to write, what not to write. But no, NMC has good guidelines also. There is good curriculum also, and we have great teachers like on the screen who have taught us. They have more than 35 years of experience. Only 2 teachers I am telling, but if we go with the many teachers, they have many years of experience. They have used all the molecules. They have participated in various research trials also of those molecules, and they know which molecule works better. So we take the guidance from such great teachers. On the day of Teachers Day, I respect them and I seek their blessings also, and we decide along with them also which molecule is best for our practice. So yes, medical colleges are doing well. They are training our students very good, in a good way, and they make good doctors, not only pharma, which is going to influence our prescription. Second point I said is the scientific evidence. There are well-reputed journals like Journal of Clinical Psychiatry, Lancet in Psychiatry, which gives us good evidence about what the molecule is. They do head-to-head trials. There are so many articles of phase 4 also, meta-analysis, which helps us to come to the conclusion of our practice. Yes, this molecule does well. So there is scientific evidence. Also, timely, there are various prescribing guidelines which guides us in our clinical practice. So whenever we are in confusion, or we don't know what to do, we can just follow these guidelines and which guide us properly. And these are not only one-time guidelines. You see, every year they have this updated version, and IPS also spends a lot of money to have this clinical practice guidelines updated every year. Maudsley comes up with every year or couple of years the new edition, and we follow these guidelines and we practice in our clinical practice. So where is the pharma influencing these guidelines? We are the ones we decide what is good for the patient. Apart from that, we also take discussion with our peers. We have small meetings, we have small post OPDs, we have small CMEs, various conferences where we meet our peers and we discuss what this molecule is about, where do you use, and we find some good new indication of the molecules, and then we start using it and we find helpful. So discussion of the peers also helps us in making the decision. And as I said, the patient needs is very important. If only pharma were to influence, we would have just given a costly medicine to any patient and they would have not followed up with us. So yes, it's the need of the patient, the financial capacity of the patient, comorbidities, what he's suffering, any other medical illness is there, and then we decide what molecule has to be written. Not just if someone is selling, कि आज मेरा vortioxetine थोड़ा लिख दो, चल नहीं रहा है, and I'll just blindly write vortioxetine. It is the need, what is required, and we decide about it. Also, we see, as I said, the cost. If the patient is affordable, we might write a bit costly medicine if it is helpful for the patient. This molecule is very good on the screen, but on the left side, but then how many of us are writing this molecule day in and day out? The competitor brand, which is much cheaper Indian brand, we are writing every day and patients are doing well. So we see the patient's need and the affordability and the comorbidities. Itna hi nahi, there are some regulatory bodies also which guides us. So there is US FDA, there is Drug Controller General of India, DCGI also, which do not approve any lay molecule in the market without any research or without any evidence. So we have good regulatory bodies which will guide us time to time that what molecule are there and they are safe or not. Also, we are bound with the ethical principles. How can we forget our ethics in practice? Just only one small, बोलते ना, फार्मा का झोंका हमारे ethical principles को नहीं हिला पाता. We are very following these principles. We know what to be done. It is always in the favor of the patient, and we are doing it properly. Yeah, there is something called as nutraceutical medicines or vitamins. The pharma people will come and say कि नहीं नहीं ये तो as an add-on आप सबको लिख सकते हैं. You can see my prescriptions. Yes, सबको नहीं लिखता मैं. It is if it is required, then only I write. And I think a majority of our audience also will agree to this, my point, that we don't blindly write all the patients any vitamins or pantoprazole or rabeprazole or anything. If it is required, patient is having gastric side effects, we do add pantoprazole or something. If required some weakness, B12 deficiency, we add vitamins, but not blindly to anyone just by the influence of the pharma. They will to say, ये तो business कर रहे कि ये लिख दो as an add-on सबको चलता है. But we have never followed that. We have our ethical and moral principles in place. Coming to couple of studies, I am not talking blindly. There are some studies like my colleague also. Yeah.
Dr.
If
Sagar,
we
you have
see,
a minute.
Yeah, just last slides. So the pharmaceutical marketing strategies, whether they influence the physician prescription or not, like giving gifts, any samples, like CMEs or any mail, you can see 3, 4, 5 is in the majority percentage. So more than 50 to 60% are not affected by these gifts and samples and any subscription to the journal or any participation in conferences. So that's my party has said very much wrongly. There is evidence that more than 50% are not affected by these gifts and samples. There is another study also which shows that how the pharmaceutical company can influence our prescribing habits. Like very few points they have said that the product availability, like as I said, haloperidol Serenes, it is available in every nook and corner. So we are bound to write Serenes for haloperidol. Like Nexito is available in the remotest place in the India. So definitely Nexito is going to go in the patient's prescription. So availability, inclusion in my hospital list. So see, Librium, when I was resident, it was available, but now after 2 years, it is not available. So my juniors or myself are never writing chlordiazepoxide because it is not included. So availability, pharmaceutical company brand which is available, presence of the supplier, which is the nearest distributor, that is also a very important thing which will influence the brand which the patient is getting. So don't misunderstand the molecule and the brand. So pharma can influence the brand, but we are not influenced by the prescription. We decide what molecule we are going to write to the patients. So yes, we have to have a responsibility to influence the people in our lives to the best possible people they can be. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. So please don't blindly say that we are influenced by the pharmaceutical company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sagar, for making this Zoom call a battlefield. Now, let's go on to the rebuttal. Let us see what the other team has to say against the points that Dr. Sagar has made. So we'll now move on to Dr. Suyog Jaiswal. Dr. Suyog.
Very good evening. First of all, thank you, IPS West Zone, for inviting me for this debate. And
Dr. Suyog,
Sagar
I
makes
just
quite a
wanted,
few points. Yeah.
I just
I'm
wanted
audible?
to see if you're here. I'll just give a quick introduction if that's okay with you. So Dr. Suyog Jaiswal,
I'll just
he's
wait. I'll
currently,
introduce myself. Hi, I am Suyog. There is nothing much to tell about myself. I currently work at AIIMS Nagpur. I am associate professor of psychiatry here. I have done my undergraduation from GNC Nagpur, post-graduation from Nayar Hospital, done a stint of 6 months of senior residency at Sion, and thereafter 6 to 7 years at Cooper Hospital assistant professor. And now last 4 years I'm at Nagpur. So let me start by congratulating Sagar. Sagar, you've been wonderful, and thank you for giving such relevant points for me, because I was thinking what I'm going to say for rebuttal. So Sagar first raises a point that we do not prescribe drugs just on because pharma says, because somebody requires SSRI, so we are going to prescribe SSRI. We are not going to prescribe antidepressant. But yeah, we know there are certain antipsychotics which have been wholeheartedly promoted as a mainstream antidepressant as well. In fact, back in May 2012, Abbott industry was had to pay a compensation upward of 1.5 billion dollars, because they were promoting Depakote, one of their brands, for use in dementia, for agitation between 1998 to 2006, and thereafter from 2001 to 2003 they marketed Depakote in combination with atypical antipsychotic drugs to treat schizophrenia, even after its clinical trials failed to demonstrate that adding Depakote was any more effective than atypical antipsychotics alone for the use. So yes, there are some times, yes, you are a good prescriber. However, people that are influencing you have known to influence people doing the things that they should not have done, and it has been proven in the courts of law. Then they talk about the newer molecules that we do not. The agomelatine has gone out of the sunset. Then there is another drug he also mentioned that has gone out of the sunset. However, in the initial phase, for that first year, 1.5 or 2 year when they were in market, all of us have seen very reputed psychiatrists prescribing these drugs right, left, and center. No, we do not have any evidence or a paper suggesting such. There are no past post-marketing surveys that had to be mandatorily released, which were released otherwise. But yes, for that 1 or 2 years, these molecules enjoyed a lot of credibility and were prescribed very right, left, and center. Coming to the next point, that is guidelines, that we prescribe medicines and drugs based on guidelines. This is something which is has to be given for a particular indication or not. We know that we have seen different drugs prescribed for different, even the pharma industry is so strong that they tend to get FDA approval for indications. We know certain antipsychotics which have been known as a monotherapy to be prescribed antidepressant, and we have also used them, and we know that that doesn't really work very well. However, every time a new person comes who doesn't have that kind of clinical experience, initial few years they actually go in. So yes, it's a win situation nonetheless. Then we talk about the peers, the consensus that we are talking about, right? We meet in the CME, we discuss this drug is working, this drug is not working. There's a specific thing called ethos advertisement. Ethos advertisement talks about somebody of a repute tells you something, so you are more likely to follow. So one of your colleague or one of your teacher who we respect anywhere, and when they influence, when they try a particular drug and they come and fly at the pharma expenses, hold a CME for you, hold a cocktail dinner for you, and tell you that this particular molecule works particularly well in this particular condition, we are unconsciously are bound to try, at least in few patients, those who have better self-regulations are correcting themselves well. And how many of us have not over prescriptions? How many of us, the guidelines says that one antidepressant monotherapy they talk about prescribing one antidepressant at a time, waiting for a period, giving it a full trial, and then prescribe another. Apart from the institute, how many of us actually do that? Yes, we have been influenced by pharma. We tend to add, let's say, a multivitamin, let's say folic acid, neutrophils, and quite a few drugs that we talk about. Coming to the research, how the pharma influences students, they tend to catch the students early. A French study published in BMJ in 2022 by Molina and colleagues says that prescribers, who the branches which are more likely to prescribe, they receive more promotion and over a period of time develop favorable attitude. So they are generally caught young. The physician are generally caught young. In early ages, yes, most of us are influenced easily. Then there are Fick Wheeler, which suggests that the prescribing behavior is influenced by the pharma promotions, and irrational prescriptions are positively correlated with pharma promotions. Brax et al. In
Dr. Suyog.
2017 publishes a review that out of
Dr.
19
Suyog,
studies,
1 minute. 1 minute.
Yes. Out of 19 studies, 15 found a consistent association between interactions promoting a medication and inappropriately increased prescribing rates, lower prescribing quality, as well as increased prescribing cost of the individuals. Then however, when it comes to patient, they tend to tell you that they are not really well informed, and they prefer, however, the professional regulations rather than the government regulation, as we are seeing right now in this thing. And when we talk about ethical principle, so I do not want to really comment on that. I just want to tell you शायरी by राहत इंदौरी साहब, आग लगेगी तो घर आएंगे कईयों के जद में, मोहल्ले में या शहर में केवल हमारा मकान थोड़ी है. थैंक यू वेरी मच. Dr. Mansi?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
I submit my rebuttal.
That was strong opposition, Dr. Sagar. You will have to have more ammunition, I believe. So now we go on to Dr. Sagar Karia. What do you have to say against what Dr. Suyog said? You have 5 minutes.
Yeah. So first of all, I will say that my well-learned opponent did not have points to say. So that's why they were just beating around the bush. You can see my previous speaker, Dr. Pallavi, she initially spent 2 to 3 minutes on just explaining us how this molecule comes in the market. We all know it is by the pharmaceutical company, and then explaining us that they do a lot of research, they spend crores of rupees. ये हमको सिर्फ बहकाने की बातें हैं, नंबर में उलझाने के लिए. 6% coming to this many crore, 290% coming to this 90 crore. I am not worried about, means I am not bothered about this thing. ये सिर्फ हमको नंबर में उलझाया गया है. So please don't get carried away by these numbers. I'll tell you proper facts. Secondly, Dr. Suyok says that the person coming, a teacher coming and saying that yes, this molecule is right, and we start writing. We don't get influenced just easily. And he is our teacher, so we will just listen to him and we think by ourselves. They also themselves only said कि जिसके पास सेल्फ रेगुलेशन है वो अच्छे से काम करते हैं. तो दैट इज द फॉल्ट ऑफ द डॉक्टर. They are not self-regulated. Why we are blaming that nahi, pharma is influencing and that's why we are doing. You can see there are so many advertisement of cigarettes and alcohol and all. We don't start drinking all the cigarette brand or we don't start using all the alcohol. If we are not self-regulated, then it is bound that we are starting using cigarettes also. So yes, we are not prescribing any molecule by only just by the advertisement or by the force of someone. We are using our brains, we have learned, we have clinical experiences. Secondly, the colleague had said that there is some nexus between the pharmaceutical company and the doctor. We don't know. There can be another nexus also. Some medical store and the doctor. We are not aware. And there are only 1 or 2% of them who might be involved in such nexus. Why blame the entire doctor community? वो एक काला घोड़ा है, उसके लिए बाकी सब घोड़ों को क्यों दोष दे रहे हैं? And also, in many points, they gave the example कि we know, but they did not give any particular example. US FDA ने इसको approval किया, अरे पर approval किया किसको किया? They said कि ऐसा ऐसा हुआ. Just citing one example of Depakote was used, but then see, we are never used Depakote in schizophrenia. We know where to use Depakote and we are using it properly and genuinely. So we are always learning by the evidence, by the research and all, everything. Also, they said कि any new molecule came, we started writing left, right and center. So again, it was we who written. Pharmaceutical company हाथ पकड़ के नहीं लिखा कि आप मेरा लुरासिडोन लिखो. It was we were very much curious. The doctor were curious कि ये नया molecule कैसा है, चलो मैं try करता हूँ. अभी वो डॉक्टर का गलती है, बेचारा नया नया है, उसने सब पेशेंट्स को लुरासिडोन लिखा या जितने स्किज़ोफ्रेनिया है सबको लुरासिडोन लिया. But that was the curiosity of the doctor. But if you ask me, I have used lurasidone very well. I have analyzed where it is helpful and I am still using it properly. So it's not the fault of the pharmaceutical company, it's the fault of the doctor who is writing blindly anything anywhere. Okay, and then he said that the patient comes and complains that I was not informed by the doctor. So again, it is the fault of the doctor. He is lacking communication skills. You ask any of my patient, I have explained them what medicine is for what purpose. मैं उनको बराबर से समझाता हूँ कि ये नींद के लिए दिया है, ये आपको घबराहट होती है उसके लिए दिया है. So I am educating my patients very well. So it's the fault of the doctor. They are writing anything and they are not explaining the patient. कहाँ pharma आ गया इसमें? So please don't blame that pharmaceutical companies are influencing us. Yes, I am again repeating, the brand you choose can be something influential, but the molecule and the rationale of writing any particular combination. Coming to polypharmacy, see, guidelines तो बोलता है, but that is a different topic only. It is not the topic of debate today. कि polypharmacy दो या monotherapy दो, it is not discussed today. It is about the pharma influencing our prescription. Polypharmacy is also well experienced, clinically evident. We are having so many patients getting better with the polypharmacy. So I rest my case, and please again go and read the books. I would request everyone that how we are prescribing and we analyze that yes, we are not influenced by the pharmaceutical companies. We are having proper clinical evidence and the guidelines and the judgment, and then we are prescribing medicines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sagar. I think we can all agree that we had some fantastic speakers, and both team for and against presented some very, very thought-provoking points. But of course, आवाम ही होती है जो decide करती है. So can we let the जनता decide who made them, who made their thoughts change, who convinced them for either direction? So once again, I'm going to ask who is for the motion, who is against the motion, who thinks pharma influences our prescribing patterns. We did it, of course, before the debate, and now that we have heard these points and we've had the presentation, I want to know how many of us have changed their opinions. So once we do that, we can have the concluding remark, or let's have the concluding remark before. So I would like Dr. Shrikant Joshi, sir, as we had to, we had to stop him so that his thoughts don't influence us. Dr. Shrikant Joshi, sir, are you here with us right now? Hello?
Mute. He's muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Fine.
Yes, we can, sir.
So
Yes, we can.
this kind of marketing here it is to stay. Self-regulation is the key. Gradually, when even our customers, clients become more aware, we will have to be more careful about not being seen as obviously influential. So, for my younger people, some principles from the beginning. We have to remember that as psychiatrists, patients first. As Dr. Sagar Karia said, is that the interest of the patients, the indication, the affordability, the availability, that should come first. And the brand, of course, you may or you may not choose. Do not become beholden to any particular company. Everybody is working, and as far as possible, if the patient, whatever the patient requires, which you'll have to do. But I think a time has come for self-introspection and self-regulation, not to pad our prescription, write unnecessary things, and not to be seen as too closely associated with the pharma company, because ultimately that will boomerang. So let us be ethical, patient first. We are there for a long term, and ultimately the pharmas come to us because we look after our patients. Don't do anything which will harm the long-term interest of the patient, both medically as well as financially. That's what I like to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the valuable input, sir. We also have senior psychiatrist Dr. Nimish Desai, sir, here. Sir, would you please honor us with a few words?
I thank you very quickly. You know, one gentleman goes to a Catholic priest and smoke when I'm praying. And the priest obviously gets very irritated. And after 15 days, the guy goes back to the same priest and says, Father, can I pray when I'm smoking? And the priest says, oh, of course, son, you must pray all the time. My point, friends, is that while all these three colleagues have done a great job, the basic motion is very slanted. Frankly, even Sagar or any of the other people who have said against the motion, if they genuinely believe that the influence is 0%, we are not in the real world. Molecule, brand, perceived need, diagnosis. So all that Dr. Shrikant Joshi said is very correct, but the motion is very slanted. It's a bit of an extremist statement. I also was thinking that from a very middle-class family, when I went to a boarding school 50 odd years ago, and when I was introduced to the idea of Cadbury as a chocolate, for decades, I thought Cadbury was equivalent to chocolate. Only much later did I learn that there were other brands of chocolates. So, like Dr. Shrikant Joshi was saying, for a long while, and Sagar highlighted, for a long while, many of the molecules were single-hold molecules. By now, the whole market is different. And so, my third point is that I think it is naive, stupid, it is foolish, it is everything that can be said about these new NMC guidelines. If every aspect of the society is commercialized, this expectation that doctors and medical practice will remain totally immune from it. And like the USSR of 1960s and 70s, we'll have only toothpaste written there on the box, not even Colgate or Close-Up. I think it's ridiculous. Yes, like Dr. Shrikant Joshi said, regulation by self, some regulation by the external agencies. That's a realistic midpoint. Thank you so much. And really, this has been wonderful. Since I happen to be originally from the West Zone and Umesh and people are such good friends, I took the liberty of being here, and this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Please, it was, we are honored to have you here, and very valuable inputs, just like Shrikant, sir. So whenever we young colleagues meet up, we always believe that हम तो knowledge share करेंगे एक दूसरे के साथ. It is only going to be the seniors generally who are going to share the wisdom with us. So thank you all the seniors for sharing your wisdom. Now I would really want to go ahead with the poll so that we don't miss out on it. So everyone, after the whole debate, whoever believes that pharma does influence our prescribing patterns, please type yes in the chat. I'm going to wait for maybe half a minute.
Say one more thing, Mansi, can I say one more thing quickly? There was a witness in a courtroom. There was a witness in a courtroom, I believe the story goes, and the judge asked the witness a very difficult question. Have you stopped beating your wife? Okay. Now, the guy was in deep trouble either way. If he says yes, he is in trouble. If he says no, he is in trouble. So some questions are very difficult to answer honestly.
Yeah. That is all of us right now. It is going to be difficult to completely say yes or no, right? That's so true. Such an apt example. Okay, I am going to wait for a few more seconds for everyone to reply. So once again, hello? Hello? हेलो
हाँ, सब गए अभी.
अच्छा
हाँ, जितने भी यस थे वो चुप हो गए. काफी यस कम हो गए पहले से. देखो, यही तो जीत है. ऐसा पहले 20 यस थे, अभी 5 यस है. तो ये तो मेरी जीत हो गई ना. ऐसा ही यस है.
People are less. Okay, people with no,
नहीं,
please type no in the chat.
पहले कितने सारे यस थे, अभी देखो 5 ही यस है. तो वो भी जीत ही हो गया ना. नो नहीं लिखा मतलब समझ जाने का. ठीक है ना.
Okay, the no's are increasing. Now there are 4 no's. Okay, I'm going to count till 10 and then we won't wait for any answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we don't want to see how many people are yes or how many people are no, but we want to see how many people converted, right? So we know that there were 3 no's first and now we have 4. So the winner of this debate is Dr. Sagar Karia. But can I thank everyone, and I can end this debate session with a quote that I personally like a lot. Like Dr. Umesh Nagapurkar sir has messaged in the chat, all the panelists are fantastic, very strongly presented your points, and it would be tough for someone who does not already have an opinion about it to decide which side they should be on. So thank you so much for such good presentations. Thank you once again, IPS West Zone, Dr. Shailesh Shumate, the EC coordinator, Dr. Bhushan Shukla, everyone else, and all the audience here. I can see that the number has been constant. Maybe a few people here went and came back or some new people joined, but it's fantastic to have so many people at this time. So thank you very much. And yes, I would like to say this with a quote. It is better to debate a question without settling it than to settle a question without debating it. So even though we do have a winner, I don't think we have completely settled this question. We have just scratched the surface. There are so many layers to this doctor and pharma nexus, and we would love to have more sessions, not just on this topic, but various other nuances as well that do affect the practice and do affect various other aspects of us and psychiatry. So looking forward to many more sessions. Thank you everyone once again for joining in. Thank you very much. Okay.
Dr. Mansi.
All right. Yes.
Yes, I thought there was going to be a concluding remark from the panelist at the end of the debate. From the panelist.
Do you want to? Please go ahead. We are very happy to hear it.
Yeah, because I thought it was going to be there, so I had prepared it that way. And then
go ahead.
it's it's something I thought the senior colleagues would understand and then share more on that, as Dr. Nimesh had done and Dr. Doshi had done. So it's a Doha by Kabir. पढ़ी पढ़ी के समझाई मन नहीं धारे धीर, रोटी के साथ सही पड़ा, योग का दास कबीर. सब पढ़ लिया, सब नॉलेज है, बट प्रैक्टिस में पैसे की बहुत पड़ी है. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that doha. It was amazing also to have shairis and dohas, which obviously added an element of, not just academics but culture to the whole session. So thank you so much, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you soon.